So, if you wanted to escape the matrix, how exactly could you do that? So, that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Hey, welcome to the show. Today, we're going to talk about escaping the matrix. This is sort of one of my obsessions lately. Fascinated with it. I haven't really been talking about it outside of a couple of good friends that remind me I'm not crazy, because it is a bit of a conceptual idea that at first glance, or sort of at first dive into this, I question like if I'm just living in a fantasy world. But I've been testing this out for the last couple of months. And what I'm going to explain to you today, like I've been doing it. And it feels real. Like like I am slowly escaping the matrix. It is not a one-step process, or at least not for me. And so I'm going to kind of explain to you how I have handled this, how I have constructed this like strategy, I guess, and explain to you like a little bit how you can kind of test it out. Now, here's sort of a funny thing: is I might sound a little different if you've watched any of my videos before. I was sort of getting ready to talk more about this. I did a video last week where I sort of discussed this topic for the first time. I wasn't really sure if this was what I was supposed to be doing. And then, bam, on Saturday, I lost my voice, which was, I don't think was random. And I don't think it was coincidence, if that makes sense. I think that what I needed to happen for me over the weekend was I needed to stop talking and listen to an inner voice kind of map out some things for me we're going to talk about today. So it was kind of remarkable that one of the main concepts with this matrix idea is that we have a divine self, a higher self. You could call it the universe, you could call it God. Those are all labels that for what I'm going to describe today kind of work. I choose to see it as my higher self because that helps me sort of imagine that we're basically the same, or of the same, built from the same mold kind of idea. That's a pretty important thing to understand with this concept. So, all right, what exactly do I mean when I refer to this world being a matrix? If you've seen the movie, that's a helpful place to start, but I'm going to simplify it even more. I've explained this before. I'm going to do it over and over because the more you can kind of grasp this concept, the easier it is to play around with it. So, this world that we live in is like a metaverse video game. So, when we got warned about the metaverse a couple years ago as this thing that was coming, the irony is that we are already living inside of the metaverse. And if you were to play a metaverse game in this world, it's kind of like Inception, where you have like a dream within a dream. If you have not seen Inception, that is a great, fascinating movie because it helps show that there are levels within this world, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're in this metaverse video game, and I'm going to simplify it intentionally so that we can sort of see it very basically. You have a person in the video game. It's like the guy in the game. Like when you're playing, Donkey Kong. I guess that's when we were Luigi, right? I don't know, whatever. So you're playing Pac-Man, like the little guy. That is what I'm talking about as the avatar. It is the participant in the game. It is the person living life. It is the avatar uh, experiencing this world. Now, I'm going to simplify again. An entity, we'll just call it one entity, created the game. This is the person who not only created the world, this is where the God analogy comes in, but we're going to stick with the video game thing. So this entity, your higher self, created this game that I'm living in. My higher self created my game that I play all day long. And each avatar gets a whole bunch of settings. So if you've ever played a video game where you can pick between the characters that you want to play, you'll get like a description pop up. It'll be like one person-y looking thing with different hair color, and like that person will have like attributes. They'll be good at something. They'll have a weakness. They'll have a backstory. There's all these sort of qualities that describe this player in the game. I call those settings. So we're going to talk a lot about settings, but they're essentially like, imagine this long list of attributes with like a checkbox next to them, and like attributes get checked off, like brown hair, green eyes, certain height, certain weight, like preference of food, preference of music, certain things that I'm good at, certain things that I don't like, certain things I do like. Like there's this really, really long list of settings. And they vary in external, internal, mental, experiential. And the biggest, most important part about these settings are beliefs. Really, if nothing else affects our reality, it is what we believe, because what I believe to be true will affect how I perceive things. Because when I look out into this room that I'm in, I am interpreting what I see. So, like, there's a painting on the wall. What that really is a fundamental level is like some canvas, some pigments, some tape I put around the edge, and I'm interpreting those like ingredients as a painting. So my mind is telling me, what do these inputs mean? And my ability to interpret information is totally based on my beliefs. Okay. And you as well. All right. So we got all these settings. And then you have this kind of environment that is like the gameplay. And there's a interesting concept in physics. I think it's a quantum physics belief that's helpful here, is that nothing exists in the world until someone observes it. So this is kind of why it's interesting if you think about explorers from like centuries ago when they went and discovered a new world. According to physics, like if no person had ever been to that place before, like it didn't exist until you saw it. And this is kind of a fun thing just to think about for your own life. Like, what do you really know to be true? Like, we might see things on the news or read them in books or watch them on TV or have someone else tell us about something, but you really can't be sure about what is true until you have experienced it yourself. So, this is helpful because I tend to like put a little less weight in things that other people tell me, things that I read on on the news about what's going on in the world. I'm not saying I don't believe anything. I just know that many of the things that I am told exist might not. So, if you read that a certain group of people are all like losing their mind and protesting or whatever, doing something, that may be true, but that may not be true. So what it helps me to do is not get sucked into the story of believing all of these terrible things are happening, because you know what, they might be, but I just remain uncommitted to believing all of the chaos that we're told is going on in the world. And that again ties into the beliefs that, like, I do believe that people lie. I do believe that the media lies. I do believe that governments lie. So I don't have a hard time believing that if the media is putting out a propaganda type thing, that it's a lie. Like, that is not a difficult thing for me to believe. All right. So we got the game, we got the player, and then we got the person controlling the game, higher self. Now, the big awakening that many of us have gone through is not the awakening that the governments are organized crime and tell us lots of lies. The awakening is that we are a player in a game and we are controlled by an entity that wants nothing but good things for us. This is where the trust comes in, and this is where the real like uncomfortable work has come, is that you have to really believe truly that this higher self wants the best for you, and that all these kind of doubts and fears and insecurities that you have, they're going to need to be removed from your programming before you can ascend to the next level. Because that is the point of what I'm talking about in this video, what I refer to as escaping the matrix. It is essentially clearing this level and rising to the next level. Now, that level could be a game too, but whatever. We're here to play this game, and I also believe that I would not have learned what I'm about to explain to you if it wasn't for me to use to clear this level. I also believe that I'm supposed to tell people, some very specific people that I know, and then some general people who are just going to watch this video and it'll resonate with you. And the idea is that there's a group of us who are going to be ascending to this next level, and this game has kind of like a couple of a dual component, meaning my ability to ascend will be based on points that I earn, which is going to be a function of my vibration level, which we'll talk about in a second. And it's also going to be a collective effort where the people that are in my cohort, the group that is ascending with me, we're all going to have to do something together and work together in some way. I don't know all the details on that, but this is why I am being told that I need to make sure that those who are supposed to come with me come and they don't get left behind or distracted or worried or whatever. So that's kind of partly why I am doing this. There's a couple key philosophies too that I have chosen to believe that you might not want to embrace. And if this video does not resonate with you, I don't take it personally. I think it just means that I'm not the right person to help you move along. Like you're not in my cohort, which is fine. Like it's like we're on teams for, capture the flag and we got assigned to groups and I'm trying to find the people in my group. And if I don't resonate with you, it means you're not in my group. So you might need to go and find your group. But if this does resonate with you and this makes total sense and you're like, wait, I thought this was true and now all these pieces are fitting together, that could very well mean you're in my cohort. What does that mean beyond that? I have not figured that out yet. Okay, so this is the philosophy that I now believe that is a little bit controversial. So I think that we started as a soul, S-O-U-L, and we're souls that live up there in the 12th dimension or the ninth dimension, or way above this world of 3D Earth. And it's kind of like it's beautiful up there, but it's kind of boring. There's no drama. Everything is just love and light and beautiful and peaceful. So what these souls decided to do to make it fun is they decided to incarnate in a human to live a human experience. And knowing that this was kind of a game, they basically came down to play the game and they had the soul higher self program their avatar in their own image, in their own imagination. And they gave their player a bunch of qualities. And they also set the player up to learn some very difficult lessons. This was the hardest part for me to grasp when I embraced this because I dealt with some very difficult, messed up things when I was very young. And I was like, I chose that? Like, why on earth would I put myself through these really messed up experiences on purpose? Well, here's the answer is that when you go through very dark experiences that, damage you and wound you, mentally, emotionally, that is the foundation for empathy. So if you know people who are very, very kind of deep in terms of the depth of their character and the things that interest them and their ability to kind of relate to other people in a very empathetic way, that ability is a function of having experienced dark emotions. And developed a lot of these skills. I actually am an empath, which means that I sometimes feel other people's emotions without wanting to. Like they kind of send this energy at me, this emotion at me, and before I got better at managing it, these anger would come in me, and I would now be angry, even though I know you weren't yelling at me or mad at me. I've absorbed this negative energy, and now I have to deal with it. So I used to be a coach, and this was one of the reasons I stopped coaching for a while, is because I didn't know how to have all this kind of stuff unloaded on me that I internalize, and I would then at the end of the day just feel like I weighed 1,000 pounds from all this sort of heavy emotion. I've learned how to deal with that, by the way. And I also had too many clients at one time. Anyway, back then. Long story. So the point is that these really difficult, dark experiences that many of us live through, especially in early stages of life, were put in our way to help us experience the associated emotions and then develop this empathetic quality to be able to identify and understand other people who experience those similar emotions. And then I think where this is going is we're going to somehow help people heal from these things. I haven't gotten to that far yet. So the point is that not only are we required to forgive for all of those things, I now have gotten to the place where I'm now grateful for these bizarre, twisted, terrible, horrible things that happened, which is, if you had told me this a couple months ago that I would be grateful for those things, I probably would have just completely dismissed that because it sounds a little bit insane. But when you realize that something beautiful does come out of those traumas and that you now have this depth to your personality and to your character that you wouldn't have had without them, I can see how I'm grateful for that. I know some very shallow people in my life, and they're not bad people. And I think they're shallow because they never really went through very difficult times. Because it is through those dark moments that you develop a new kind of strength. You develop abilities to handle things that you maybe feel like you didn't even really handle at the time, but you did because you got through it, you survived it, obviously, and that leads to this depth. So back to this philosophy that our souls who are living up there in the 12th dimension or whatever, we're like, you know what? I want to go live this experience and I want to feel all the feels. I want to get all these experiences. And you can sign up for like the grand package of like a whole long list of bizarre, terrible traumas and say, you know what? I am going to be this like rock star empath at the end of this because I will have gone through all of these bizarrely horrific things. So that is how I've kind of come to not only be okay with all of these things and no longer feeling like they are these like shameful things I should, never talk about, to instead being closer to being grateful for them. And the other thing that I had to go through, and I actually got hypnotized a couple weeks ago to help release some of these things, is I was also very attached to the stories that these traumas had, which is why and I'm no longer like these things happened. I actually don't even think people really care about what happened because the whole point of these things was to have these skills and abilities that I have now. So I'm going to not even get into the stories about what happened because I've released them. I'm done with them. Those stories are no longer living rent free in my head. They're old news. And that was a necessary thing for me to be able to embrace the skills that I have without feeling like I'm stuck in this watching this horror movie of this endless loop. And that is why when you go through this experience of kind of being hypnotized, like I chose to do, you have to relive those experiences and have a different perspective on them. But at the end of it, you have to cut the cord and release those memories and say, we're done. So I am kind of bringing them up now and I'm thinking about them without meaning to by making this video. But after this video is done, I will be I don't think I'm going to talk about those memories unless I need to, whatever. Okay. So we chose this experience. We went through these difficult things. If you went through all this effort to incarnate as a human and you had this like really boring, cushy, easy life, you're not going to get all the feels. I mean, this is why we watch movies that are a variety of like emotional states or whatever. Like there's sad movies, there's happy movies, there's scary movies. There are, a whole bunch of emotions that are often kind of brought up in us by design. Like if you only wanted to watch like happy movies, you might get kind of bored of that. So this is how I view the soul's desire to come down here and live this kind of very dramatic, sometimes traumatic, in other cases, not boring life, even if it's full of struggle and even if it's full of hardship and abuse and terrible things, right? The ability to kind of overcome that story and emerge. It's very much the hero's journey if you're familiar with that framework. I think we were set up to be the hero of our own story, and it had to begin with some dark stuff. That doesn't mean everybody went through traumatic things, but your soul got to choose those things. So don't be mad at anyone else, including yourself, for that. You're just, when you get time to chat with your higher self, be like, hey, what was up with that? Why did you pick those things? And the lesson might be, well, you were able to develop an incredible depth of character by going through those experiences. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't say, all right, I've learned enough lessons. We're good now. All right, let's move up and ascend to the next level of the game. And that is part of this awareness process, this awakening process, is to be able to see, oh, wait, I've been a participant this whole time. I've been the player in the game, but I'm now being awoken to see that I actually have the ability to change around and mess with the settings in this game. It's a little bit like the Ryan Reynolds movie. I think it's called NPC, or it's the whole concept of it was he is this non-player character in a video game, and he kind of awakens to the fact that he has a soul and a personality and free will and the ability to make decisions that allow him to kind of escape from the game. It's basically the same thing as the Truman Show. This guy's kind of living in this bizarre world. There's all these sort of everything's scripted and all these sort of non-player characters around him. He kind of figures out, like, wait a minute, this world is not what I think it is. Kind of the end of the movie. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling it for you. He kind of figures out there's a way to ascend out of the game and go to the next level. So I do think that we have been a lot of clues are left for us along the way. And movies are one way that our higher selves within this game have shown us ways to figure it out and ways to get out. And that's why some people refer to The Matrix as a documentary. I think that this applies. Okay, so now we figured out this is a game. We are a player in the game. Our higher self controls the game. We were sort of put into the game intentionally, often to deal with difficult experiences because it would create this depth of character, this emotional empathy. And beliefs are really important. Some beliefs are implanted early on as kids. Some beliefs kind of come from the media, some come from teachers, some come from, actually, I think some are even programmed into your DNA. But one thing you do need to truly embrace if you want to get out of this matrix thing is you have to believe that every single belief can be changed. It is like a computer program that it's written in the code, but that doesn't mean you couldn't delete that code and add different code. A belief is just something you think is true about yourself, about the world, about other people. And we don't really know if any of them are true, right? Now, people don't like it when their beliefs are challenged, by the way, because if I challenge a very, very core belief that you have, you're initially going to not believe me via cognitive dissonance. And the reason I think this happens is because if you dismiss some core belief based on me just telling you once, then anybody could dismiss every belief that you have. And like your whole world would just be upside down. So this is why, excuse me, a lot of people have resistance to their beliefs being challenged. It is part of our survival is to have a set of beliefs that sort of help us function in the world. But at this point in the matrix, your job is to question those beliefs. I'm not saying throw out every belief, but here's the assignment. And I'm going to be taking on a couple of coaching clients to help them individually escape the matrix. But what that will really involve is reprogramming some of these key beliefs that are sort of limiting your potential. And you have to be willing to explore every belief and potentially get rid of beliefs that don't serve you and adopt new beliefs that are more likely to serve you. I'm just going to give you a couple of belief examples. Not everyone has these. I usually use those that I have and have dealing with. I used to have the belief that you had to work hard to earn money. And that's why I've always been very skeptical if someone just gives me money. Like, I'm like, what's the catch? What do they want? Like, what is the hidden agenda? Whereas if it was very clear that like I have a job and I get paid X amount of money, I do the job and I get the money, it's very transactional. And I believe that that is like normal or okay. But if someone were to just come along and give me money, I would be like, why would you do that? There must be something I don't know. And because I have this deeply rooted belief that like, in order to get money, you must work hard. Now, you might have that belief as well, but this is sort of a belief that like, where did that come from? I mean, there's plenty of people who have money who didn't work for it. They didn't work hard for it. How come they got money and I had to work for all my money? So these are the types of things, and there are so many of these beliefs, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of them, and many of them are totally fine. Like, I believe that if it's getting dark and super cloudy, that it's going to rain. Like, that is a belief that comes from my own previous experiences, and my mind has made a judgment that when certain conditions are present, there is a result that occurs. And there's no harm in me believing that it's going to rain if it gets really dark and cloudy in the middle of the day. Do I need to discard that belief? No. All right, sorry, I had to cough for a minute. Okay. So not every belief is bad or unhelpful, but you have to be willing to explore and understand all of these beliefs. Excuse me, because these beliefs are like settings, and the beliefs that don't serve you in this ascension journey are going to have to go. And the beauty and amazingness of this particular game is that we all got different beliefs. We have many in common, but if I were to list out every belief that I have, I don't think anybody in the world is going to have the exact same set of beliefs. You would have to have grown up in the same household, in the same time period, in the same town, listening to the same thing. And it's just unlikely that that's the case. So this is why, like, I can't tell you in this video what beliefs you need to reprogram because you're going to have a different set of them. Also, we might both have the same belief, but for some reason it affects me more than it affects you. So there's this process that you kind of go through where you need to kind of hold up the mirror to yourself, and that is when the impact of your beliefs become clear. So I'm lucky I have a friend who we put the mirror up to each other often, and it's extremely illuminating, almost like disturbing sometimes, because there's some real rawness that comes from this process. So be aware that there is a section of this game, this ascension game, that ain't fun. It is uncomfortable, it is vulnerable, it is something that in the moment you're going to be like, this sucks, can I do something else, anything else please than this? But know that on the other side of it, uh, is this movement to the next level of the game. Now, regardless, even if there is no next level, and I'm wrong about that, clearing up some of these beliefs is very good, even though it sucks at the time. Now, I've tried to hold this mirror up to myself, and having gone through it kind of with my friend, I can identify how to do it a little bit, but I do know that there is no replacement for someone else holding up this mirror, because we will often go just to the edge of where it's uncomfortable and stop. It's like your ego protecting you. So to really go just beyond that, like, uncomfortableness, like, you're sometimes going to need someone else to do this. And now that I'm saying this out loud, why I'm volunteering to do this as a coach, I'm not quite clear. I don't know. I'm not going to want to make you feel uncomfortable, but that is probably going to be part of the process when the mirror is shown to you. So just know that if you do decide to, approach me to work with me through this, it ain't going to be fun the whole time. And that's just kind of part of it. It's funny, I keep having to pause this video because I keep coughing, which is your throat, right? And I'm a believer now of the throat, of the chakra system in the body. I'm no expert in it, by any means. But your throat is where you speak and communicate from. I'm having all these issues with my throat lately, and I don't know if this is because I'm like speaking too much or not speaking enough. So there's something going on, and it's like a pendulum. There's always polarity in things where you can go from speaking too much to speaking too little, but somehow communication is a big thing for me right now at this time. So excuse all the breaks for the coughing. All right, how do you change these settings? So they generally start with a pretty simple decision to raise your vibration level. There's a book called Levels of Energy that affected me quite a bit. There's another one called Power and Force, which I don't like at all, but covers the same topic. I like this one better. And there's a scale that goes from like 1 to 1,000, basically, that rates emotions as having like a point value. I love it because in the game you can see like you get points for certain things, and if you go down in the level, you kind of lose points. And the idea here in this game is that you want to consistently raise your vibration level and have a new set point, which is like where you default to when you wake up in the morning or when you're not paying attention. And if you are normally like an anxious person, that will have a vibration level. If you're normally kind of just bored, you'll have a vibration level. If you are normally very happy, if you're normally feeling very inspired, if you're normally operating in a state of love, like there's this whole scale of it. And learning how to identify when you're feeling a particular thing is key. And then there's things you can do on a daily basis to consistently raise your vibration level. So I started doing this a couple months ago. And it's a pain. Like, you really got to pay attention to things. You have to learn how, like, when something upsets you, there's like a process to sort of let that flow through you, and to evaluate that it's usually something within you that's being triggered and has nothing to do with the person who is making you mad or upset or whatever. And so I started to consciously do this. And I started to pay attention to my inputs. I was writing different types of things. I was thinking about different things, listening to different things. I pretty much stopped listening to all like news, even like XRP news stuff. Like, I just said, you know what? I need a break from this because I'm reprogramming my mind. And so none of these kind of matrixy inputs were helpful at that time. And a couple of times I felt like I woke up in an alternate universe. Like, the people around me all of a sudden were totally It was really weird, and it's happened more than once. I sometimes describe that as like I've hopped timelines, which means to me now, hopping timelines means setting a bunch of changing a bunch of settings at once so that your world is almost unrecognizable. Now, the amazing and bizarre thing about that is I'd always believed that you can't change other people, and I still believe that. But what I have learned recently, to my amazement, was that if you consciously and consistently change yourself via raising your vibration level, this isn't about saying any quality you have is bad or trying to sort of pretend you're something that you're not. It's just consistently raising your vibration level. You will see that the people around you will treat you differently. It's amazing in a cool way. Uh, I don't go around telling everybody this. There's a very short list of people that I will talk about this with, like in person, because a lot of people will think you're crazy, which is fine. Maybe I am crazy. We'll see. But when you can consistently change your vibration level in a positive way, you will see that things around you change. People will treat you differently. The things people talk to you about will be different. The tone of voice that people will talk to you with is different. And this is where this philosophy comes in. It's one of the sort of laws of the universe, is that what you put out comes back at you. So if I put out a higher quality energy, higher level of emotion, a higher level of emotion comes back at me. This world is a mirror. I think I talked in my last video. I went to Miami and went to this, was divinely led to just go wherever. And I ended up at this art museum that had this cool exhibit about mirrors. And the whole lesson there was, first of all, mirrors can distort, but mirrors will always sort of show you what's on the other side of the mirror. I'm also very influenced by a book called Reality Transurfing that often talks about mirrors. And you need to be aware that you're not the reflection in a mirror. You are the thing that is being reflected or whatever. And so we often look at the mirror saying, I want to change what I see in the mirror. But what you have to understand is that you can only change what is standing before the mirror. A lot of mirrors in a bunch of these lessons around. There's like a forgiveness thing with the mirror. I have this other mirror exercise that I've been doing recently about when things upset you. And understanding that the mirror, when you hold up a mirror to yourself, you will see a level of truth that you might not have seen otherwise. So where does this end up? I'm not exactly sure because I haven't gotten to the end yet. I'm still amassing this cohort of people to come with me on this journey. I'm not exactly sure where we're going, which is kind of part of the adventure. But I do believe at this point that when you can raise your level of vibration to enough, and I'm not exactly sure what that means, like what's enough, new features become available in the game. This is what I actually believe with zero doubt, that new doors will open. It's almost like you're in a game and you get this new ability to, like, these new glasses appear out of nowhere, and these glasses like are like blacklight glasses or something, and now I can see things that I couldn't see before. Because that is another thing that is crazy about this world, is that we think that if I can't see something or I can't hear something, that thing doesn't exist. But we know that's not true. We know that a dog whistle makes a noise that my dog can hear. So I don't doubt that that sound exists. I just know that my ears can't hear it. And the same thing with vision. I just use that example of, I could, if you ever watch those like crime shows like CSI or whatever, people can put on these glasses and like see all this stuff in the black light that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. So things exist that we cannot see, cannot hear. I know that I send a text message to someone's phone. I cannot see that text message leave my phone, but I know that it's going there. Even in this video, like if I didn't have the computer plugged up to anything, this would eventually go up to YouTube. Like, I don't know how that's going through the air. I can't see that data being communicated. So you have to sort of understand that it is possible that we could gain new access to light in a vibration scale if you raise your vibration. I mean, all these things are on a vibration, like sound is a vibration, light has a vibration, and energy has a vibration. So if you become higher in vibration as an entity, new things could be open to you. So that is part of where trust comes in. Is that I'm just choosing to trust at this point that when we get to a certain level and I've reprogrammed enough settings, that the world around me has changed literally and sort of how it feels, I'm going to see the door on how to get to the next level. And you won't be able to see that door until you're at that level as well. And then when we go through that door, I don't know if we're going to end up in this 5D, Lemuria utopia or a post Nasara world. Like I don't know yet. And that's part of the game, is trusting that whatever that next door is that it's going to be better than this one. And so it's worth it to go through all this effort and to ascend to the game. So if this resonates with you and you feel like I might be the one to help you reprogram your beliefs, and we're going to treat this kind of like a game, but you're going to have to do uncomfortable things, I'm going to put a link in the description. There's going to be a couple of sort of things to know. One is I'm going to have to meet you on Zoom first, and I have to see if I can like read you. If we are not sort of on the same wavelength, I'm not going to take your money and take your time, because I'm not going to be the one to help you. So I'm going to need to I can tell usually pretty quickly if we are sort of resonating on the same wavelength, on the same vibration level, enough that I can read you well enough to be able to figure out what you're not telling me, because a lot of communication for this is body language and unspoken communication. So please do not take it personally if I do not think that I can help you. It just means that I'm sort of being guided that this is one of the people you're supposed to help, or no, that person is supposed to be helped by somebody else. There will be an investment. We can talk about that if I think I'm the right person to work with you, and we'll get into the rest of the details from there. So I'll put a link in the description. There's going to be a bit of an application process. I'll have you fill out a Google form, have you read a document, kind of explains my philosophy on this. And if you want to move forward, we can set up a call, and I will explain how I will lay out this belief changing, matrix setting, alteration philosophy for you, so that you can figure out how to rise up, change your beliefs, change the world around you. And then when we get to that point, we can ascend to the next level of the game. So, all right. I'll see you in the next video.